Hello, my name is Ryan Brooks, and today I'm here to present to you the Healthzilla app along with my co-creators. I was in charge of making the designs and working on the actual layouts, and so here they are. We're going to first go through them, and then we're going to see them in the actual app, and I'll go into more detail. So here's my initial sketch on the right for the first fragment, which is just used to show the user's information. You can see one of the big things that changed between the initial sketches and the final was the color. We switched to a green color from this blue to represent sort of a healthy fitness vibe and to fit with the Healthzilla theme. So now you can see that's how our information is displayed, and on the right you can see that the initial sketch was pretty similar. And then here's the edit profile module, the module for editing your inputted information. And you can see this one's a little bit longer than the actual phone. This is the next one. It's the fitness tracker. This is used for our calorie calculator and for our fitness goals. And you can see this one stayed pretty much identical. And then finally, we have hikes and weather. This shows the weather at the top and the hikes down below. And this nav bar chooses which section we're on. For tablet mode, we decided to switch that nav bar to the side, and that was mostly what was changed. So this is my initial sketch for that. And then it came out looking like this on a tablet. Now let's jump into the actual app. So now that we're actually in the app, you can see that we land on the Create Profile page. Now I'm just going to upload a profile picture. So it'll take us to the camera, and we can take a profile picture, and then it'll return us back to the app, and that will be our profile picture in the app. So now I'm going to enter my name. You can see that we used a lot of text entries for this, and that sort of goes against one of the design requirements. That was on purpose, because we felt like for things like age and weight, it was not as good for the user to scroll through a bunch of ages and like a bunch of weights by decimal point, and it allows specificity without taking a bunch of the user's time to scroll. City and country also are text entries. We made sure that country had a list of countries, which you can see, pop up based on your input. So now if we hit the submit button, you'll see it takes us to the fitness page. We thought this was important because fitness is the core of the app, and we thought that a user would want to see this first. So we can change our goal here and the amount we gain or lose per week, and that'll allow us to calculate BMI, BMR, and daily calories. One notable thing is that BMI, the color of the number, will change based on our BMI. So if we hit calculate when we have above 3 pounds, you can see it pops up both health warnings, one for low calories and one for being above 2 pounds per week. Also, we can change our activity level, and once again, it'll still put the above 3 pounds, but since the daily calories is above the number, it won't pop up that one. We also have this question mark button. So the question mark button shows some information about how the numbers are calculated. We thought this was important because the user might not know how they're calculated, and not all the information can be edited on this page, so they'd have to go back to the profile. And we're going to quickly go over to the hikes module. Importantly, we wanted the weather to appear at the top, which you can see it here, and it reminds you of the location you set the weather to be. This is important because the weather determines whether or not you want to go out to take a hike. So you can see here's the list of hikes. We can scroll down it, we can scroll up to refresh the list, and clicking on one will take us to Google Maps. We thought this was intuitive because, well, it's just like a list of links. So we can head back since this will take a while to load, and let's head on over to the profile module. This module allows you to see things such as BMI, as well as your fitness goal, and the rest of your entered information at the click of a button. That's its entire purpose. It also links to the edit profile module, which allows you to change any inputted information. So we'll just go in here and change our name. Let's make our name something like, I don't know, Danny. And we can change our sex as well. We'll just set it to other. This will all update our current values, such as the BMI, etc. We can change our weight here too. And while we're at it, let's change our city and country to something like Kyoto, Japan. That way we can get a new list of hikes from a different location, as well as new weather. Touching on this again, we thought it was important to include this list of countries that was auto-filled by the entry because, well, it's a lot easier on the user if they select the correct country code and don't accidentally input something wrong. We have all our information here, which you can see has updated. And now, if we go over to the hikes module, you can see that the hikes and the weather has updated to be in Japan. It's obvious because some of the items in the list are in Japanese now. And now if we go back to the profile module, we can look through and see that also our location is fully updated. So if we go back to the fitness module really quickly, I want to show something that I missed. Here we have this current weight here, which updates the user's weights, just like in the profile. We wanted it here because we didn't want the user to go back into the profile every time they got closer to their goal. They're going to be losing and gaining weight constantly, depending on their goals. Now you can see this updates the information in the actual profile. So I think that's going to about do it for the design section. I'm going to hand it over to Joshua to go into detail on the actual construction of the app and the engineering behind it.
Hello there. My name is Joshua Cragen. I'm the team lead for the Healthzilla project, which is a project written in Kotlin. For starters, everything is hosted within a single activity. And the main reason we did that is because we thought that it would be easier to manage the transitions between different modules instead of just using a navigation graph that handles replacing the different fragments for us and makes it easier to include transition animations if we wanted to add those later on down the line. And we also take advantage of view binding, which is, I guess, a subtle point, but important in that it means that, we manage to be more direct with the way that we interact with the views. There are 4 primary controllers. There is the edit profile fragment, the view profile fragment, the calorie calculator fragment, and the hikes fragment. Currently, they don't make a ton of use to other classes, save for the hike fragment, which works with some different adapters, but they all, to some degree, will interact with the user profile, which is a view model data class that stores the primary information of the user, things from their basic details like their name to their BMI and their location for things like weather and hikes. Currently, it does not take advantage of a live data / repository design pattern. However, because we're already using a view model from the very beginning, adding those will be very straightforward. The hikes fragment in particular makes a lot of coroutine asynchronous calls to the API utils class, which is entirely a static class that contains a lot of useful data and helper methods for interacting with the 2 APIs that the app currently makes use of, which is the Open Weather API and the Google Places API. To do this, it takes advantage of a encapsulated data hierarchy, which is JSON compatible. So the responses from the APIs are automatically parsed into these data classes. And these data classes store a lot of very useful information, things ranging from the business status to their opening hours. We don't display all this information, but because it's already included with these data classes, if we ever wanted to extend our views to include things like images of the hikes or their ratings or more specific weather data, we can. And that more or less covers the general gist of our design structure from a very high level. In summary, I think it's a very modular approach in most places. And while the overall design structure can certainly be improved, there is a lot in place that I think will make these types of changes very straightforward and extensible. We will now transition to Brendan, who will talk about the testing components of the project.
Hello, my name is Brendan Ye, and I'm the testing lead for this project. I'm here to go over the types of testings that were done and the bugs that were found along with it. The tests that we mainly focused on for Project 1 were manual testing and unit testing. These 2 were mainly chosen over UI testing as we were still figuring out the layout of the UI, and many UI bugs were much easier to catch visually during the early stages of the program. I will now go over the major bugs that we have found and fixed throughout Project 1. The first bug that we found through manual testing was that the values coded to match the phone screen resulted in weird behaviors in tablet mode, which we were able to fix by making the fields in the layout dynamically adapt to the screen size. We also fixed the issues of overlapping text boxes when long inputs were inserted as well, as shown on the country text box in the right image. Another bug we found was that despite adding trimming to decimals, scientific notation on the BMI values resulted in the trim decimals showing up again, which resulted in overlapping inputs as well, which was fixed by removing that scientific notation. The next bug we found through manual testing was that choosing hikes after using edit profile to set a profile picture was causing the app to crash, which was fixed after we figured out that the profile picture code was mistakenly put in onCreate instead of onCreateView. One bug that may or may not be intended was that the BMR formula would result in negative values if the edge was too high, so we limited the edge to 150 and set a minimum value of 0 for BMR as well. The biggest major bug that was found through manual testing was one where the nav bar was not recreated if one were to use the back button on the edit profile page, which did not have a nav bar, but this resulted in the user getting soft locked on the page as you would be unable to traverse to any other pages without the nav bar. But luckily this was caught and swiftly fixed. The final part covers the unit tests that covers testing the input types of each variable as well as the calculation formulas for BMI, BMR, and daily calories respectively. These tests were able to discover more minor bugs, such as values being rounded up one above the calculator sites values for certain values, while calculate BMR tests and calculate daily calories tests were able to find that one of the variables was not updating correctly, which resulted in male users getting the BMR and daily calorie values of the wrong gender instead. That about covers it for the testing section, and thank you for watching our presentation.